So it's funny because my eyesight's been progressively getting worse since I was in first grade.
Oh,
So I've been wearing glasses since first grade.
okay.
But I went through that phase where I would only wear contacts because I thought it made me look younger and cool and
yeah.
hip. And back in the day when I was somewhat active and athletic,
Yeah.
I was playing pickup basketball. I would never wear glasses. I'd put my contacts in.
Yeah.
The problem is because I read all day, I'm looking at a screen or documents. I need the glasses. So I wear the glasses exclusively now. The beard was 100% a COVID invention. Before 2020, I was always clean shaven.
Yeah.
That was the look, very professional, very lawyerly, very uptight.
Yep.
During COVID, I mean, I didn't get a haircut for over a year, so I had this big fro and the beard was coming out. And,
Like a mad scientist, yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then eventually decided, you know what? With a little gray in the beard and keeping it nice and close to it kind of makes me look sophisticated and
Distinguished, yeah.
distinguished. Yeah. And as a function of time and mechanics, I don't have to shave the same way every day.
That's very true.
I'd say it saved me time. Yeah, it's funny because I hesitate to say it in this climate that we live in, but I always thought I would be either a politician or a teacher or something like that. I always wanted to be, in front of the public. I always wanted to be talking to people, getting to know people. So teaching was always my passion.
Yep.
Politics was sort of a 1A, if you will.
Yeah.
That, of course, changed dramatically, when the climate changed, and now everything becomes very personal and very negative and very combative. And, you're either a Republican or a Democrat. It's not issue by issue. It's not, common sense or formulating your own ideas on the issues.
Yeah.
That's not for me. But even given those things, it was sort of a natural progression eventually when the reality of what do you do for a living and how do you support a family and how do you make a living, the law was sort of a natural fit for me.
Okay.
And by the way, I still love teaching. I do a lot of the mentoring in the firm, and I will speak on panels whenever I can. I will visit high schools whenever I can. I mean, I still love that aspect. I would not rule it out as something I do as I get older. Just maybe being an adjunct professor somewhere at night and doing this by day. No, I didn't.
Oh.
But my parents were very education first parents. So we, our household, it was not, are you going to college? It's where are you going?
Yeah.
And for what?
Yep.
So academic excellence and the process and attention to detail was always super important in the household.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of it is I was a geek. Like for example, my parents, I still hated this rule, but we had a half-hour TV limitation growing up. Half hour a night we could watch TV, except we could watch unlimited TV if it was news programs.
The news, huh?
So I grew up watching, the news, and then I don't remember if it was the late 80s, but when 2020 and Nightline became a thing.
Yes.
I think it was the Iran hostage crisis that started the Nightline with Ted Koppel.
Yep.
So I never needed a lot of sleep, so I'd fall asleep watching Nightline, and that sort of, that going back to politics and sort of educating yourself as to the world and different perspectives, I always had that. Yeah, no, it was I have a sister.
Okay.
And we're very close. I followed her to Florida, 20 some odd years ago, and then she followed us to Georgia 3 years ago.
That's right.
So we're very tight. my sister and I were never hyper competitive with one another. I think the gender thing helped that.
Sure.
We were in different schools.
Yep.
We were doing different activities. I was always hyper competitive as a kid, though, because despite my small frame and lack of ability in any sport, I was always very competitive in sports.
Got it.
So I was never great at any sport by a long shot, but I was like the coach's dream because I never gave up. I tried harder, even though I was 4 foot something or 5 foot nothing. I still played like a power forward on the basketball court and had that grit. And even though I had no talent with my feet on the soccer pitch, I was the Energizer Bunny, and I never gave up, and I never quit. And coaches loved me. So I had that sort of athletic competitive streak in me. And I still do. More so with the teams I love than actually doing things. I'm very concerned about getting hurt. The body doesn't work
at this point.
The body doesn't work the same way, and I can sprain an ankle just sort of looking at a basketball court. But no, our parents were very supportive, especially educationally. My sister and I were both products of private schools. In part for me, I know that I was super bored in public school back then, and this was I was born in 1970, so we were talking a long time ago when public schools probably had a way to go in sort of developing a good curriculum, and now you've got high schools that have AP and IB diploma programs. It wasn't like that back then. So that also made me a little bit competitive academically, because now I'm in a group of sort of self-selected kids that are all academically inclined. I thought that was really good for my development and my communication skills. And, when you're fighting for airtime with the teachers, what's the way that you're going to make an impression? You're either going to be the class clown, which I was never funny enough to do that, or you're going to be really bright and participate and make a lot of points. And that's sort of the lane that I took. My dad worked sort of the traditional, started at a company, worked there 35 years until he got his nice little watch, and they moved him out to hire 2 young MBAs. So he was a great role model from the perspective of, out at 6 a.m. every day, home at 7, sort of showed us what the life of a provider would be. My mother worked on and off. She was very supportive of us and was home a lot, but she was an academic. She has a PhD. So she was doing things that, were more project-based. She was never fully employed when we were kids. But it's interesting because my dad, seeing that sort of, Groundhog Day of, you wake up at the same time, you brush your teeth at the same time, you crank out your work, you come home, a good life lesson. Also a bad life lesson, little footnote here. For a while, I kind of viewed the role of a dad, like when Stephanie and I finally had kids, as the provider, that means I have to work harder, I have to work longer hours, I have to do more, I have to put everything into a day. That put a lot of pressure on myself. And of course, what I realized was, that may be an aspect of being a parent, providing. But if you don't get to spend quality time with your kids and your spouse, then you're a shitty husband and a shitty dad. And then you're just a walking ATM. And that's not the kind of person I ever aspired to be. So I learned that sort of early on in my career, that you need that balance. And this may be getting too deep and personal, but, I love my wife. I love my boys. I have to. That's what you do. But I also really, really like and enjoy them. And that's something, love isn't enough when you're building a good family unit. Like, you've got to spend the quality time, create the memories, have the traditions, have your favorite meals where you're all sort of sitting around and talking or laughing or whatever. And that's the piece that took me a while to figure out. Now, some of that was me being wise and introspective and learning about my career. Some of that, though, was external. Some of it was technology. You know, when I really started to hit my stride as a lawyer, this thing called a BlackBerry was invented.
That's right.
A lot of people early on hated the concept. They thought it was going to be a chain around the neck, a tether to the man.
Yeah.
You know, now you're on call 24/7. I viewed it the exact opposite. I always knew that was the great liberator.
Yeah.
Because now, you know, before the BlackBerry, and this might not be an exaggeration, this may be spot on, but before the BlackBerry, the definition of a working day was, how long were you at your desk pounding your keyboards?
Yeah. Yep.
That was the definition. Once the BlackBerry was invented, it kind of freed you up and allowed you to have other things creep into your definition of work.
Yep.
Well, if I'm having lunch with a prospective client, is that work? Yeah, that's work. Now, I'm not producing work product. I'm not producing a document in that moment.
Yep.
But it's work.
Yeah.
So that sort of allowed me then to take some liberties with my day, my time.
Interesting.
What I was doing, and it allowed me, you know, some more freedom. I had no clue. I went to Colgate University, which I loved.
Yep.
I went in, and this, again, another footnote here. I think it's absolutely asinine when colleges ask incoming freshmen what their major is. How the hell does any 17-year-old kid know?
We're still trying to figure this out. At 40,
Correct. Correct. And it can be negative, because if you think that you want to be something and that's what you've aspired to, it doesn't give you a lot of psychological wiggle room to pivot if there's something that you like better or if you don't like it. But I went into Colgate as a biology major. That was my declared major. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you just made a funny face for people who can't see the camera. I make that too. Yeah. I learned very quickly that wasn't for me. I was standing in a stream in central New York in 40-degree weather, freezing my you-know-what's off, counting larvae as they swam by. And I was like, this is not the major for me. Then I thought I wanted to be an education major. And I actually took a number of courses through Colgate's education department.
Okay.
Then what I ultimately settled on, and this is the real showstopper, I was a religion major.
What?
Yes. That's the exact response I get.
What year did you figure that out?
I actually backed into it. What ended up happening was a lot of colleges and universities, if not all of them, require students to take a variety of distribution courses so that you can kind of wet your whistle on different
lay the groundwork.
Subjects. And so as part of one of my distribution requirements, I took an intro to religion class, and I really loved it, and I loved the professor. And then the next semester I signed up for another and another and another and another, until one day one of the professors cornered me and said, "What are you doing? Like, if you just stop and look at your transcript right now, you probably have enough coursework to be a minor. With a little tweaking, you could be a major. Like, what are you doing with yourself here? Like, maybe we should have some direction here on what you're doing instead of just taking every class in the department and not." And so that conversation spurred me on to sort of pursue it. Now, being a religion major had some major advantages. Major advantages. Academically, all I did was read and write about very sensitive issues.
Okay.
So it taught me a lot of critical thought and analysis. It also taught me that you got to be real careful how you express things. Sometimes you can say something that's correct, but it's offensive, versus saying something that's correct and massaging it a little bit so that it's...
Don't touch the third rail, right?
Less offensive.
Yeah.
I thought those were great skills. And then as a practical matter, what was amazing was I knew every job interview I had, every single one, the literal first question I would always get was, why were you a religion major? So it allowed me, you know, in those sort of nerve-wracking situations where you need a career, you need to provide, you need the job.
Yep.
And you're sitting across from the person that has that stuff that you want.
Yep.
Really comforting to go in and reasonably certainly predict that the first question is going to be that. Oh, I was in my element when I got that question. So I kind of knew when I graduated from Colgate that I was going to decide to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But I was fried. So what Stephanie and I did after we graduated from Colgate, that's where I met my wife.
Okay.
What we did was we were underemployed for a while. I thought, I'll be a management trainee at some mega company, only to learn that 2 weeks in, I kind of knew the whole playbook and was bored.
Yep.
And I'm like, I can't do this for, 2 more months, let alone 30 years. And then we Stephanie and I, founded a small business in southern Vermont, and we did that for a year.
Oh, wow.
So after having some of those sort of real life experiences, that's when I was like, all right, it's time to sort of grow up, figure out things for real. And that's when I applied to and went to law school. So I had a 3-year gap between graduating Colgate and then starting law school at Case Western Reserve in Cleveland. The first year of law school is that stressful. And part of it is, let's weed out a little bit. But once you've made the commitment to go to law school and pay that tuition and take on that endeavor, most people end up staying. The real thing that happens first year, and this is one of the quirks of sort of the law school recruiting cycle, those first year grades could be the only grades that your future employer sees.
Oh, wow.
A lot of the pressure that occurs in that first year of law school is actually pragmatic. It's career driven.
Oh.
Because what ends up happening is if you get a job, at least in the old world, the hiring practices are changing dramatically now. We're in a world of flux a little bit in terms of law school hiring of young lawyers. But back in the day, it was, you go to law school, you get your grades, you find a firm that's going to give you a summer associate position, hopefully with an eye on keeping you.
Yeah.
And then you sort of go through that process. But if you're a summer associate, either your first year, your first summer, the only grades that the employer will have seen by the time you applied is your first semester.
That's true.
Not your first year, your first semester. And then same thing, you go second year, which is really the second summer of law school, sort of your money year. Your money, not year, your money months that summer about whittling down what you think you want to do and or finding that firm that would give you the offer, for a career. And those employers are only going to see your first year grades and maybe your first semester of second year grades. So that first year puts a lot of pressure on law students in the job search. Now for me, I was good, lucky, created my own luck, however but I found a firm my second summer that was just a great fit, and I left that summer with a job offer in hand. So my third year of law school, I don't want to call it a joke, and I certainly don't want to go on record as telling anyone in my family that you can mail it in. But I spent a lot of time my third year in the local coffee houses in Cleveland with friends, meeting new friends, with future colleagues at that law firm, sort of with that eye on, okay, now that I've learned how to think in law school, now that I know I can write and express myself pretty well, at that point, I don't want to trivialize the JD and say that third year was just about getting to graduation. I don't want to trivialize it that way. But there were other things in addition to the academic aspects of law school that I took full advantage of that third year. And some of it on the surface looked like I was kicking back and having some fun. But it was about relationship building. It was about finding myself. It was about figuring out, well, wait a minute, I've been basically an academic or underemployed my entire life. What's it going to be like when I started a real law firm and now it's go time? Yeah. So I did a lot of that reflecting, and I took advantage of the fact that, you know what? When am I going to be able to go to the coffee house with a friend in the middle of the day ever again?
Sure.
Once I start my career, my time's not my time. My time is the firm's time. Yep. My time is the client's time. I don't get to go at 10:30 in the morning to the coffee house.
Yep.
But employment law, I can blow that off once. It's a very interesting question. I have this conversation with my kids. I have this conversation with young lawyers in my firm and other firms. What I believe in my heart of hearts, and it's sort of been derived from my career story, my career path, is one, never say forever. Things change. People evolve.
Yep.
Things happen. Two is, although you need to be type A in this profession to succeed, and you need to be a little bit of a gunner and put yourself out there and be an advocate for yourself, it also takes someone giving a shit about you. When I got that job at that law firm in Cleveland, there was one guy who, to this day, I refer to as my mentor, singular.
Yeah.
Even though I've learned a lot from a lot of really good and intelligent and kind lawyers, this is the guy that's my mentor. He's the one that got me into the area of law that I practiced. I didn't really have a choice.
Interesting.
He liked the way I handled myself. He liked the fact that I was always the first one in the office, the last one out.
Yep.
So he knew that I had that sort of drive and ethic.
Yep.
And he kind of took me under his wing. And said, you're going to be in my practice group, and this is what you're going to learn, and this is how you're going to do it. And, when you screw up, I'll tell you. And if you think you screwed up, you come clean to me, and we'll figure it out together. And I learned a lot of life lessons. But as far as the substance of what I practice, if you'd asked me second, third year of law school, I would have said I wanted to be a commercial litigator. I like speaking. I like the preparation and interfacing with opposing counsel and clients. What some of the people at that law firm in Cleveland saw in me was, no. This is a deal guy. This is not a guy that wants to be taking depositions and following the rules of civil procedure.
Courtroom stuff. Yeah.
This is, and they were right.
Interesting.
They knew more about me than I did at that point, at least as a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so I am a deal guy. I am a corporate guy. Back then, it was more on the distress side. So a lot of out-of-court restructurings and workouts, Chapter 11s. So when I came out of law school, it was sort of the bankruptcy heyday. Every day there was a WorldCom, an Enron, some calamitous, record-breaking corporate restructuring. So people like me were in need. So that also plays in, fine. Maybe academically I want to be a First Amendment constitutional lawyer, but guess what? That doesn't pay the bills all the time and, has more charitable aspects usually than pragmatic.
Yep.
But that's how I got my start. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people who know me, and even those who know me well, either don't know or forget that I have that distressed background because I've evolved. And over time, I've become more of a healthy corporate guy. So now a lot of the healthy mergers and acquisitions and helping companies build the foundation in their operations, build the legal foundation to get to that liquidity event. But what really it makes me, and candidly the whole firm, is recession-proof. Yep. Because when some idiot decides to fire some missiles across the Sea of Japan and the stock market tanks and money becomes more expensive, well, we know how to talk the talk with lenders and private equity funds to help struggling companies or to get forbearance agreements in place. That's sort of the distress side.
Yep.
But when things are going great, we can help companies build their legal foundation from the ground up, not from the roof down, and do things the right way, and ultimately that preserves or increases their value when some buyer comes along. Even though transactions are part of my widget, that's what we help clients with, we are not a transactional firm. And what I mean by that is we would rather have a client for 15, 20 years than do this specific project. I always joke that I never wanted to be the McDonald's of law firms. I don't want somebody to come to us and say, well, what's it cost for this agreement? And can you help us with that agreement? And can you... No.
Yep.
What we'd rather do is say, well, sure, we can help you with that agreement over there, whatever it is, an employment agreement, an employee benefit package, whatever.
Yeah.
Sure, we can help you with it. But it's not going to be the best agreement for your company until we know the context. Are these employees that are key employees? Are these employees that someday you might want to turn the business over to or grant equity to? That context today is important if we're going to draft you an employment agreement. We're not Google or AI where you can just burp out a form agreement that fills in the blanks. Sure, you can do that.
Yep.
I don't recommend it because, again, context matters. Everybody has different needs and goals and aspirations for their company and their employees and their customers. That context matters when you're drafting. So for us, we can do the bits and pieces and all the customer contracts, terms and conditions for a website. Of course, we can do all of that.
Yeah.
But if we do it in a meaningful, strategic, comprehensive way, client's getting value from it. And the client's going to understand what those documents mean and how they work. Drafting a great document for a client, if they don't understand when to use it or how to implement it, they're throwing money into the breeze. It's a total waste. Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier about people evolve, people grow, people change. When I started my career as a lawyer, I was a worker bee. One, I didn't know my rear end from my elbow, in terms of real world application of the law. So I had a lot to learn. Well, how do you learn? You just work hard. You see more stuff. You see more deals. You start to learn that maybe the books say this, but in the real world, business works like this. And of course, in books, you don't have anybody pushing back on you. In the real world, you do. If a client tells you, I need this deal to go through, well, we can issue spot all day long and say, well, here are all the things we don't like about the agreement. But if a client says, look, if I don't get this customer, I have an issue, it teaches you, oh, well, wait a minute. This isn't black letter law. My goal here is not to make a decision for the client or draft the perfect agreement. It's to educate the client as to what the pros and cons are if they sign it and try to mitigate the impacts and the risk by maybe tweaking some things, but it's not an academic exercise. It's a real-life exercise. By learning all of that, I got to a point in my career where I had worked for some of the largest, most sophisticated law firms on planet Earth. So I had worked a ton. I had seen a lot of issues with big dollar signs at stake. Great foundation. But what I realized was, and this is more about me than about the firms I was with. What I realized was when I hit that point where I'm like, I know a thing or two about a thing or two, and I feel pretty comfortable relating to clients and people and expressing what I know, that's when I decided and understood that I can't be the worker bee the rest of my life. I don't have it in me to sit at my desk for 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, researching, writing, drafting. I wasn't going to be the rinse repeat, kind of guy. That's when I started to get out into the market more and do things in terms of relationship building with a business development goal. That's when I started to put my name out there, put myself out there. And then that takes us to 2011, where that was the point where I finally realized that if I had stayed at big law, the model is what it is. And again, it's a great business model. This is not an indictment of big law. It's an indictment of me. And my goals and how I wanted to live my life. That's when we went out on our own, a partner of mine and I, and started our firm. And we grew that firm organically and through a mini merger. And then right after well, I mean, I guess we started negotiating during COVID, but right around the tail end of COVID is when our sort of startup, aggressively growing firm and a similar firm that was a little bit bigger than us in Fort Lauderdale, that's when we merged.
Got it.
And formed Lorium. Well, look, I was never a big fan of naming the firm after people.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. One is I fear that it can become a cult of personality.
Yes.
I also fear that it's really more about the person than the team and the effort, and it also, unless you're a mega firm where the names are folks that have long since been deceased. For active firms, it's a problem because what happens if your partner retires or leaves, and you're going to rename the firm?
Yep.
And then it leads to those ego-driven conversations about whose name goes where. And when you make somebody a partner in the firm, then it leads to the uncomfortable question of, are we changing the name of the firm to add another name? So I always love the idea of creating a North Star, an ideal, a brand that doesn't need Adam Marshall or any of the other component pieces to still exist.
Yeah.
There's no Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. Lorium.
Yes.
It is a made-up word. It is a trade name. It is... Now, does it have meaning? It absolutely has meaning.
Yeah.
We basically took a lot of artistic license here.
Sure.
We basically took two Latin words that very roughly mean client service, and we jammed them together to form a word.
I love it.
So it's no different than Verizon. Verizon's a made-up word. The challenge we have, though, is Verizon has hundreds of millions of dollars to put into marketing to create brand awareness around the word that they made up.
Yep.
And now most people don't think it's a made-up word because Verizon's put meaning behind it.
Yep.
So the challenge we had when we decided to go the trade name route was, one, it's still a little bit atypical of traditional law firms, and law firms by their very nature tend to be traditional businesses. So now we have to ascribe meaning to it, and that's been our desire and our goal since then, is to give that word meaning. And it's also a great tool with the younger generations of lawyers. Adam Marshall is no more important than you or you or you or you, at least in the very optic driven ways, because when we're talking, again, there's no Mr. or Ms. Lorium.
Yep.
So I just like that we did it that way. I think it removes a little bit of the ego, which again makes for a better culture, more collaborative, things like that. The easiest way for us to describe what Lorium is about substantively is we are a full-service, corporate-driven law firm. Typically, middle-market businesses or intelligent startups, people that need sophisticated legal planning and advisory work, but maybe don't want to spend or aren't ready to spend what big law would charge for those agreements. That's a very good fit for us. But really, anything in the life cycle of a company is what we can help with. The two things that we don't do, and when I say we don't do it in-house, but we have friends in the community that we consistently work with and refer in to fill those gaps. The two main areas, we won't do public company work because we don't have the capacity to deal with the SEC.
Good.
And we don't do tax work. We don't deal with the IRS.
Got it.
But when we're doing business deals, or especially in the M&A world, where a lot of the considerations, at least amongst the principles of the deal, are tax-driven, we pair up with their accounting firm, or we bring in an accounting firm if they don't have one that they trust. In very big and sophisticated matters, we'll bring in tax counsel to help structure the deal and provide alternatives in terms of structuring of the the deal to make it more tax friendly or more tax certain, I guess, is a better way of putting it.
Yep.
But that's really what we strive to be is general counsel to businesses in the C-suite. One of my favorite questions, and it's something that we talk about on a daily basis internally.
Yeah.
Because I say all the time, even with my aging, left shoulder, I can throw a baseball in any direction and hit 20 really competent, smart, good lawyers.
Yep.
So the why us is one of my favorite questions to be given and deal with. Yep. Because let's back up for a second. There's nothing that we do that's proprietary or different from these other law firms.
Right.
I didn't write the Georgia or Florida, LLC Act.
Yep.
I had no role in that. So I can't hold myself out under bar rules or real life practical. I can't hold myself out as the expert on the LLC Act.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with it.
Yep.
It was written by some committee somewhere and then passed by the legislature. Yep. I don't have any nuanced insights that make me different. But what does make us different is we are us. We are the people. The way we conduct our business, the way we talk to our clients. I tell clients and prospective clients every day, I'm not going to nickel and dime you. I don't want you to proofread your brain. That's when things are missed, mistakes are made, your objectives aren't reached because you didn't tell us something that was important because you were afraid that if you asked, it would be another 0.1 or 0.3 on the phone call. So we don't do it that way. So we do a lot of conversations off the clock. Mm-hmm. Hey, client, answer my question fully. I'm not charging you.
Yep.
Ooh, it reduces the barrier to communication. The other thing we love to do is we love to do flat fees or fixed fees for certain types of matters.
Yep.
And I tell clients this, especially at the beginning of a relationship. I want to break your negative stereotypes of lawyers and the 0.1ing and 0.2ing on the hourly billing. We're different, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is.
Yep.
The other thing is, when those business clients come to us, even though corporations are fictitious legal people, they're not people.
Yeah.
The C-suite, the founders, the owners, those are real live people behind those businesses.
Yeah.
When we're talking about their baby, the business that they founded or that's paying for their lifestyle or their kids to go to college, it is a very intimate, personal process. It is not just dollars and cents, mechanical. This is their pet project. This is maybe a generational family business. Yeah. It may be they founded the business and want it to be a legacy play for their kids or employees. There's a psychology into the why of the business owner. So there needs to be a psychology in how we deal with that business owner.
Yeah.
So the why us is we listen, really, not just a bullet point on a website. We listen, we figure things out, and we're credible. Sometimes that means talking ourselves out of a client engagement. Hey, you brought us this document that your last lawyer wrote. Got to be honest with you, it's a pretty good document.
Yep.
Would I do it differently? Yeah, but a lot of that's probably stylistic. But you're asking me for an honest opinion, client to be?
Yep.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job. So I think the AI application and revolution in law firms will be a net positive for clients because I think what it will do, and it's already starting to do this, is it cuts out a lot of the administrative BS and a lot of the repetitive rote stuff that under the traditional model, clients didn't want to pay for it. But in fairness to the law firms, if I'm spending time on your matter and I'm giving you the value of these agreements or this intellectual property, I have to charge you for it.
Correct.
Otherwise, we're a charity, not a business. But I think there's some of those functions that are repetitive and can be dealt with. A lot of the client intake stuff, that involved time before. Now, not as much with AI. What I don't think AI will ever replace, and maybe I'm naive, or maybe it's self-serving, but AI won't replace the listening and the contextualizing. Again, I can create, draft, print the perfect customer contract. I'm making the funny air quotes as I do this. The perfect contract. And then turn around and hand it to a different company, and it's a disaster. There's no such thing as a perfect agreement, and there's no such thing as a perfect template agreement that fits every industry, every business, every company. And I think it does take the human, caring, listening, psychologically imperative approach to understand those things. I'll give a great example. One of the things that I ask clients all the time, let's say they're a widget manufacturer. I'll sit them down in that first meeting and I'll say, you want to be Apple or do you want to be Samsung? You want to make a high-end premium widget that people are going to buy even if they can't afford it, or even though it's the most expensive on the market? Or do you want to mass produce something that's going to work the same and provide the functional value to your customer base, but you want to grab market share and volume? Totally different business models, which then leads to totally different mindsets, totally different relationships with suppliers, customers, supply chains, employees. The context matters greatly. Even though you can still be a phone manufacturer, same business, how am I going to create an agreement that works perfectly with both of those scenarios? The short answer is I'm not.
Right.
There are a couple things. One is we want to create a legacy. I don't, and my partners don't want the firm to die when we do. So there's a lot of, hey, next gen lawyers, when you step up and lead the practice group or the office or the firm, here are the skills that you're going to need, and we're going to help you develop. And oh, by the way, just because Adam does it this way doesn't mean you need to emulate that. You need to be you and put your spin on it. But I do a few things the right way. So those things you can learn from, you can pivot, you can evolve, just like I did. As far as the growth, the markets, we've always largely been driven by listening to our clients. So part of the reason I had my bee in the bonnet to move to Atlanta was, even though we were a South Florida-based law firm, a lot of our clients, when they grew, looked north, not to Latin America.
Oh, yeah.
So, in fact, I don't even know if we have any lawyers that speak Spanish, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So a lot of South Florida law firms depend on Latin America for their clients to grow, get capital, gateway to the market. And, of course, Miami is a great entree, and connector between the U.S. and LATAM. Our clients look Atlanta, Chicago, New York. So for us, it was kind of a natural evolution to come to the Atlanta market.
Got it.
Substantively, we look for cultural fit and opportunity. Our Chicago office is our intellectual property team. We didn't have any, designs on expanding to Chicago or having intellectual property. But we worked on a couple of client matters together. One in particular was a make or break issue that involved their intellectual property. We got to know them. We realized that culturally it was a fit. So guess what? After a series of very pointed conversations, not known for being subtle, we had a Chicago office with, with two intellectual property lawyers. So we're very opportunistic. We put our ear to the pavement and listen to the traffic and read the tea leaves, whatever cliche you want to use. But the fun of that is I could not sit here and say, in 5 years, we're going to have 6 offices with 60 lawyers. Nope, that's not how our business plan operates. It's more about, Are our clients being serviced appropriately? One of the things that I love is when our people get busier, because we're not a sweatshop. We're not that big law model.
Grinding.
Like we'll hire when the hours start creeping to an unacceptable level. Because look, again, not just a line on the website, but we tell our lawyers all the time, you need to be doing this for your families. Mm-hmm. Well, to have a family, you need to spend time with them, actually. We're insistent that our lawyers get involved in charity work.
Yep.
I am a firm believer, I say it again to anybody who listens to me, my personal philosophy is you do well by doing good. Whether that's doing right by the client and giving them a flat fee, or talking yourself out of some work, or talking them out of some work because you don't think it's the right time or the right fit, whether it's getting involved in charity and giving back to the community, really important to make you a well-rounded person and to contribute. But again, if you're billing 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, it's nothing more than lip service to say, oh, we want you to have a good family life. Oh, we want you to be involved in charity. When? When? Between the hours of 2 and 5 in the morning when I'm supposed to get my 3 hours of sleep?
Right.
No, it doesn't work. Yeah, every morning, I sit down and read 3 publications. I read the South Florida Business Journal.
Yep.
I read the Atlanta Business Chronicle, and I read the New York Times. And what I do, one, that keeps me sharp and keeps my feet firmly planted in both the market and the world.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I do is I will find stories of interest and send them to clients, referral sources, friends. One is a way of saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. Mm-hmm. It's a good point of contact. 2, it can potentially start a really important conversation.
Yeah.
And 3, it's just, again, doing well by doing good. Hey, I don't just want you in my life because you pay your bill on time or because you refer me work. I actually give a shit about you.
Yeah.
And here's one of the ways I can show it. Small, teeny tiny, to most people probably insignificant act, but it helps me stay connected with a lot of people. And you can be reading an article on the commercial real estate market, and then I'm like, oh, well, there are these 2 commercial real estate brokers that I really like and respect. I'm going to send that article to each of them.
Yep.
Let them know that I'm paying attention. I'm sure they've already seen the article.
Yep.
Maybe they haven't. Maybe I'm actually providing a service. But if nothing else, it starts a dialogue. Well, some of that is for the positive reasons that you're stating.
Yeah.
Some of that is to avoid a negative. Anybody who knows me knows, and I'm really honest about it, and I say it probably 20 times a week, I get bored very easily. I'm not the kind of guy that wants to sit in the same spot all day long. I need interaction. I need variety. One of the things that I love most about being a corporate lawyer is every day is different.
Yeah.
I don't have a day where it's the same clients, same issues. Every day is a new challenge, a new thought process, new people. The other piece of that is we do all evolve. And because my attention span at 55 isn't what it was at 35, you know what? We've hired really smart, dedicated, good people who candidly at this point are better at focusing on the details of the documents with me, whereas maybe I'm better at seeing the view from 30,000 feet, the big picture, the strategy. Mm-hmm. Let's structure it maybe this way and get creative this way, but I might not be the best person to implement it on the ground.
Yep.
Well, guess what? That allows the cycle to repeat and educates the next gen folks, gets clients comfortable with the fact that they're not just hiring Adam, they're hiring a mini think tank.
Yeah.
And that can be very reassuring.
Yep.
And candidly, it's the way it's supposed to be because look, I could step outside and try and cross the street and a bus takes me out. I still want to make sure that everyone's taken care of, that there's a firm that can still provide for the employees, that there's a place where the clients can still get their work done. It shouldn't be all about me.
Yep.
To borrow from Ted Lasso. It was never about me. So it's not funny, but it's one of the dumpster fire case is part of the reason why I spend so much time building relationships. It taught me a super valuable lesson.
Okay.
So not funny.
Yeah.
I'll put my stand-up routine off to the side for a second. But we had an M&A deal closing. The client, and again, I'm not going to give away anything that's not. Yeah. But the client was just a salt of the earth, hardworking person that built this business from nothing.
Wow.
This was not someone that had generational money or the business handed down. Really built this thing up. And we're negotiating with a multi-billion-dollar private equity fund that was going to buy them. And I tell clients all the time, the only leverage you have when you're the seller, the only leverage, no exceptions, the only leverage you have is the power to say no. Your business may be a widget, but their business is buying your business.
Yes.
They're always going to be better at it than you are. Their lawyers are always going to be bigger and better than we are.
Yep.
Just because of the repetition, and that's their business.
Yep.
So the power to say no. So we were in the closing stages of this deal and the negotiation, and the big Chicago-based law firm throws us a curveball. And I get all indignant, and I say, that's a non-starter. You're changing the terms of the deal.
Yeah.
And this client on the call said, Adam, I think I'm going to agree to it. So I hang up the phone, literally. I end the conference call. I just hit hang up. Called him back. And the long and the short was, he's like, look, we've never had, we've always worked in the business. We've made a good living, but we've never had money. We've bought his and her Range Rovers. We've bought, an upgraded house on the water. I need this deal to close.
Yep.
And so what that taught me, after a few choice non-legal words, non-legal four-letter words came out of my mouth, what it taught me was, well, wait a minute. As the law firm heading up the legal aspect of the acquisition, the M&A deal, we're the tip of the spear in the negotiation. But guess what? We can't negotiate efficiently, correctly, without context. So now we don't let clients go through the M&A process without us talking to their accountants and their financial advisors. Like, how am I going to be able to say, like, if the client needs to make a certain amount of money out of the transaction to live the life that they're accustomed to, well, we need to know what that is.
Yeah.
Especially while we're negotiating, because we all know the game. Eye-popping, happy number on the letter of intent.
Yep.
And then the details come in. And, well, part of it's going to be in a note, and part of it's going to be in an earn-out, but the earn-out's conditional, and then the eye-popping number isn't as eye-popping when you get to the details. Well, how do we know if that number and that structure is good for the client's objectives and lifestyle unless the numbers people, the accountants, the financial advisors weigh in? So the lesson I learned from that dumpster fire was stay in your lane, but bring in other lanes. Widen the highway. So get the financial advisors involved at the beginning, not just when the pot of gold appears at the end of the rainbow at the closing table.